everything. And I think the other side of it is I want to set, I think, when
Yep.
they talk about design committees and somebody that's responsible for putting the packages and things like that together, I want to present to the board that
Come on.
does the facility committee then now become a design committee or part of the design committee? You know what I mean? I think we need to have some synergies as to what we were thinking when we started this and pull that all the way through.
Right.
As we get into that aspect of it.
I don't want enhanced privacy. I want you to run.
No, I want to make sure that I think we have some say as to what's presented in bid packages and things like that.
Yeah.
Because our job, I think, is to inform the board on what they're approving or
live?
disproving.
We are.
We are
Looks
live,
like-
just so you know.
Just so you know, we are live.
Thank you.
No, that's fine.
I got too many things going on in my head.
You mentioned design committee, so they formed a design committee, investigating on the design committee.
We asked to be on it.
Greg wants to be on it.
Did we both did? Yeah, we both did.
Yeah.
So,
But like I said, I just want to make sure that we are offered to be on it or whatever, and just try to keep the synergies moving forward.
I just got that name, I have not looked at
We have to.
I,
So don't
It-
start
it's
chewing my
for the
ass. I don't
planning
have anything to do with
We
it.
asked to be on it.
Who did? Todd is on it. I don't know who is all on it.
On the design committee?
On the planning committee, yep.
Several-
So that's just like a small different of areas, yeah.
No, we just said that since we've been so vested, we wanted to keep part of it. So we
Yeah,
can
that's him. That's not me.
Because obviously we need to bring people that have expertise in what the schoolroom should look like, and then.
Well, I think to be an advocate too, because we've been pushing so hard already that we feel our work isn't done.
No, I mean, to be honest with you, I got involved for this part of it, more so than yes, the initial design, but now the actual execution, I think, is where our roles are more critical. Because we're still providing a perspective and expertise that may or may not exist on the board. And I think it's unfair for our board members to have to try to figure this out when there's people in the community that have the experience to help them.
And as they explained it, like there's like, you're there from the facilities, but the goal would be to come back from the facilities to the facilities committee through the planning process.
Yep,
But
that's
it's
how
just
they
like
explained
different,
it. Yep.
different areas of different departments that meet together. There's one rep of the teachers and, yeah.
And Jim and I talked briefly about that one day, and he brought up, some points and stuff that I don't think about is, rooms designed, so if there is an unruly child, designed properly, because you can't grab and hold that child anymore.
Mhm.
And I said, I get it, that's perfect, so you need a lot of these other people as well.
Yeah, you need, yes,
But-
absolutely.
No, it's got to be all inclusive. It's got to be, Rob needs to be here when we start talking about what the shop needs to look
Yeah.
like. We need the FIED people here when we start
But I
talking
think if
about
you don't
locker
have-
rooms and.
People like us, like I come from a completely different background
Mm-hmm.
of what we thought about this. How do you you can have multi-purpose facilities that benefit the community too. Not to say I'd have a
Well,
single
and
curriculum, but I think community partnerships are huge.
Well, but it's not only that. I think what it really gets down to is perspective. Have you thought about, we hear what you're saying, but have you thought about designing it this way? We have a room in our building that's this way. Or like our standpoint, like saying, have you thought of using this material? We really don't need to do that. Or, hey, have you went out to this contractor? Or, things like that, just a
How many
different
of those are
perspective
done?
of how to execute the project.
Okay, I agree. A lot less on there.
More the merrier, as long as we got somebody that's driving.
Ellie and Brent, can you hear us?
It's Mike.
Oh, hi, Mike. Sorry.
Yes.
I only saw the top of your head, so. There we go. All right. So some technical difficulties here. I accidentally put 3:15 on the live stream thing, so. All right, let's see, or I accidentally put 3:30 rather than 3:15. All right, so let's It was posted for 3:15. You guys can hear us. We're making some
Ellie and I sent out the email earlier. I think the facilities committee should obviously review the documents to give our thoughts to the school board members, just to give them a little more, probably help them a little bit if there's something we see there that should be corrected, or I know Pat and there's different groups of that have some knowledge on that as well. But yeah, with the standard document, as Ellie and I talked, there's not a whole lot we can really review or look at, I think, until we get a little closer to the final document. But you haven't heard from the attorneys when that could be expected, have you?
We, our attorney, sorry, a little feedback there. We have reached out a couple times this week. We haven't heard back, but we've accepted all of their requests. It's and their law firm, the one change that we're not accepting, their firm has agreed with us in the past. We just haven't worked with this particular attorney, Kristen Niergarten, I believe her name is. So we are 99.9% done.
Okay. So,
And again, I'm sure as soon as she,
Jim, did you want a copy as well?
Did you make 4?
I did.
You go ahead.
I can print one more.
No.
Okay.
I won't hear that. Okay. I don't know what's going on. We just lost internet.
same time the copier quit. Maybe it threw out a signal at it.
It could be. We've been having some troubles lately.
Or not yet, no.
I'm gonna just tell Neil Koffenberg we're having internet troubles during a live stream meeting in the district office.
Probably be Mike. If we had Mike, Ellie said this is discussion for Mike, so maybe I don't know if anyone had his number, but
Yeah, we might have to. Let me try to get them back on here real quick. Why do I feel like this is just going to be one of those days where all the technology stops working? Oh, I got to sign in again.
I was having trouble earlier with my camera not wanting to work either.
we seem to be having more problems in our office than ever before.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
It
what
was
is.
crazy today. Our light beam was going on and off all afternoon today.
Is there a storm rolling in that we don't know about?
I could only hope.
Some solar
Right.
flares.
I need
Snow?
about 8 inches of snow, yeah.
A foot would be good.
Okay, I'll take a foot. Anything to cover the ditches.
That's all
Well,
my
your
kids want for
hunting's is done.
Christmas.
I'm sorry.
Yes, confirm.
I just like to have a white Christmas and New Year's. After that, it can go
I
away.
see a lot of snowmobiles around my yard. They should be used.
Scratch that.
I would prefer to head south and then it gets cold.
I like all the seasons.
It worked out perfect. Meet Steve at the gas station. Just
So
got the
just-
inspection and I think showed up.
Out of curiosity, I can't remember, some of these names sound familiar, but I know the Wold Architects, did we interview them, talk to them too?
Yep.
And Bolton and Mink, the civil engineer, no?
We didn't use engineers, we just did art.
Are we back?
There we are. Yep.
yeah, yes.
Mike, you gotta start over.
Uh,
Okay. Sorry
Okay,
about
all
that.
right.
Are you?
So
Yeah, we're still live.
are we, okay, so, just before we got cut off there, I was just saying that, again, we've accepted all of the, your attorneys for requested changes with the exception of one. And again, we just haven't been able to sync up, live conversation. So there, our attorney emailed Kristen and just explained the situation. Their firm has, reviewed this same contract many times and they've always agreed with the one thing they're not accepting. And just to put in perspective, it's one of these common sense things. I always tell my attorney that this is where lawyer jokes come from. There's a clause in the contract that Kristen wanted to take out, I guess. We want to have it in there, and it basically says, you have, once we complete all of our designs, so you'll have the plans and specs, they're yours, after this project, they're yours to do whatever you want with them. But if you were to use them for a purpose that they weren't intended to be used for, that we're not liable for that. Like, we're not liable for what might come out of that. I think that's common sense, but, we're liable for their intended purpose, which is going to be the renovation of your buildings. We're not liable if you try to renovate a different building with the same plans. I know it doesn't make any sense, but that's literally how simple it is. So
What's the concern with that? What's our attorney's concern?
I don't know, because we haven't spoken live.
Okay.
But in the past, other attorneys in their firm, once we've explained that this is really the purpose of that clause, they've agreed with us and said, now we see it from your perspective and we're fine with it. I don't think there's any hang up. It's just literally we haven't been able to sync up yet.
Okay.
We got the documents from Kristen last Friday, and my attorney was out on Friday. He tried to reach her on Monday, wasn't successful, and then he tried to call and email her again today. So she could be tied up in a court case, or who knows? But I'm
She's
100%
very busy right now, I
confident
know.
we'll
So
get it done.
just for an example, to be clear, it would be like, we get a design to put a floor in the gymnasium in Bird Island. We get a design or whatever. We can't take those specs from that floor 5 years from now and say, we're going to put this floor in Olivia, and for some odd reason it doesn't work. Nexus is not responsible for that design not working, because we took the drawings and did it.
Correct.
Yes. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
We take the
That's
drawings.
exactly it.
That's what the clause is.
Exactly. And pardon?
No, I said I'm just give an example as to what a situation could be, how it could be used.
Right. And again, it's if hopefully we have a relationship with the district, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. It's not as if we're involved, so that we just have a chance to look over them to make sure that it's the right application. No problem. But it's just a matter of if, for whatever reason, if you do it on your own, if you work with somebody else, we just can't be held liable for, application of our plans and specs for something they weren't intended for. That's it's as simple as that.
And that's the only holdup
So-
right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
I'm talking to her anyway later, so I'll.
I just got off the phone with her.
Oh, really?
That's who was calling, yes.
Okay.
So, and she's sending final agreement to Jim and to Nexus as well, pending our insurance and finance part of it that we just need to look over. But everything Nexus had, there was a small change, and she said that she was fine with that, and so she was sending it off to you guys as well.
Oh, there you go. That's the change that I'm referring to. Well, sounds like that's done. And then she did mention, Jim, that you were going to contact your insurance agent just to make sure that the coverages listed in our agreement were adequate. I encourage you to do that. I'm highly confident they will be, because that's I'm not going to say common request, but we get that occasionally, and it always comes back that our coverage is more than adequate. So
Okay,
Um,
maybe
yeah.
just since it's been,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, are you,
Can I have, sorry.
no, go ahead, Jack.
I have a couple questions just quickly looking at it. Shouldn't the owner always be ISD, not Bold Public School? It's listed, I've only gotten through like the first 20 pages. It's back and forth. I know that's probably minor, but shouldn't it technically be the ISD?
Well, technically, the legal name of the school is Bird Island, Olivia, Lake Lillian, Independent School District 2534. That's listed on all our tax papers and stuff.
No hyphens.
No hyphens.
But at least have consistency. I don't know what you need to use, but you're all over the board right now. And then my other question,
yeah,
It says
Yeah.
city contribution. Have we confirmed that with the city
Just
before
looking at
this
that.
goes to the public?
We've had talks. There's no confirmation yet. But that's for the pool and
So have they ever heard a dollar amount?
Yes.
yes,
But it's never been brought to the council.
correct.
So so technically this is not, okay. That makes me a little nervous.
Do you just want us to list it as other sources or capital or?
I don't think
We're
you
just trying to delineate it to just be clear.
I don't think it should list city if they haven't taken it to their full council and if they don't have it in their budget for next year, because their budget's long gone, set for next year. I don't feel it's appropriate for us to call that out or we're asking for trouble, in my opinion.
I would agree.
I fully agree.
Yeah. Yeah, let's just say other and
No,
we just won't be able to start.
So
on
the
that.
scope of that whole, I don't want to get far out in the weeds, but the scope of that whole project is separate from this, correct?
Yes.
Why would that even be
Well-
listed?
Well, no,
It's tied to the same timing.
Yeah.
Different pot of money.
Okay, but it was only contingent on the city
Mhm.
being fully committed. Okay.
So the conversation needs to go to the city and they
And,
need to make an official.
And I think they were going to be doing that after our last meeting,
met twice now with the city.
Elizabeth and
With
Shane.
Elizabeth.
But nothing
And
that would ever
Shane, yeah.
happen before. And it's not my thing to say whether or not we're ready to sign a contract. I could say, I think it's too early, but if there's something like that, obviously that couldn't be in that signed contract or anything or agreement until the city's approved. So it'd either have to be amended later, but I agree, not listed at all until the city's approved it or that part's done, but.
But I would be fine just calling other contributions, because if other contributions doesn't show up, then it gets,
If it's worded that way, where the whole.
Correct.
concept-
But if it's included in here as other contributions and it's included in the scope of the work, are we bound by that? If we can't have the funds to do it? Like if we don't get,
you would decide not to do a project, we just amend it out. And then,
our penalty for doing so?
no, as long as design work on it, it's not a penalty at all. It just, it would come out dollar for dollar. If we've done work on something, the design work, and then for whatever reason, you would decide work completed, the design work.
so essentially,
I should say, by the way, maybe I gotta back up a little bit here, just in general. So the way that this agreement works, trying to think here, am I able to share my screen with you guys?
You should be able to.
Is it,
You might have to give them a.
And maybe it's as
Present.
simple.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, go to present. Yeah, I think you have
Do that
access.
now.
Jackie, maybe it's as simple to say if other contributions become available,
and I think if you leave it as other,
but you know, as long
I
as it
don't
doesn't.
think you're right. We should call it.
I don't like this wording either.
can you, oh,
I just assumed that was locked in.
There you got it.
Yeah, we see
Design
that.
work.
You got it.
Well, they have,
okay,
they have a certain.
just to kind of ground everybody on how contracts and work with public school districts. When you saw that previous number, or the number on the contract, the total is 43 million and something. That's the project budget. That is not what you're contracting with Nexus for, okay? The way that public procurement law is working in the state of Minnesota, all trade contractor work over, I believe it's 175,000 now. All trade contractor work has to be publicly bid, okay? And so we draw up the plans and specifications, we send them out for bids. Yeah, and it'll be broken down by all the different trade divisions. And then those bids will come into the district office on a certain day at a certain, at 2 o'clock on a Thursday. And they're all in sealed envelopes, and then they'll all be opened publicly, open, recorded, et cetera, et cetera. And then we vet all the bids to make sure that they're all responsive. And then we would make our recommendation to the district on, which contractors are going to be awarded to. When we're contracted, the org chart you see here is the owner is the school district, obviously. And the delivery method is known as agency construction management. Where in this case, Nexus is the construction manager as an agent. We are also the architect and engineer, so that the two agreements that for those services are listed there, the AIA B101 and the B144. So that's the agreements that you have in front of you. And then the actual contractors themselves, that those are the trade contractors, and again, we'll bid it out just the way I had described. And we will draft the agreement between you and the contractor. It's a standard form. And then the board will award the contracts directly to the subcontractors, but they're going to be primed directly to you, and then managed by us. So that's what you see in the diagram here. You see the solid lines are where the contracts are, and then you see the dashed line between the CM agent and the multiple prime contractors. We have contractual authority to manage all of the contractors, but they're just actually contracted directly to you. So bringing that back to the 43 million, the only part that the board is approving now are the planning, are the professional services that are provided by Nexus. So planning, design, construction management, commissioning. That's so you're not awarding contracts for the whole 43 million. That one, again, that happens over the course of the next year and a half as we, again, design the projects and then bid them out. Does that make sense?
So, okay, yes, that makes sense. The one question I have then is, so you have oversight then on the architectural engineer and the civil engineer, that is part of your design services?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yep.
Okay,
So what will be going to the board to
So-
be signed? I'm sorry. Are you done?
yeah, no, and so if I'm understanding this, essentially, we're working as our own general contractor because we're putting all the contracts out, but you're essentially going to be our manager of those contractors that we'd be putting the contract out to.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, but I want to emphasize it will feel to you as though Nexus is the general contractor and we're you won't have any direct involvement. You won't need to have any of them unless for some reason you want it, but you won't have any direct involvement with any of the trade contractors. They will look and feel as though they're subcontractors of Nexus, but just technically the district holds the contracts directly with them. And then on a monthly basis, when they submit their pay applications, they'll submit them to Nexus. We review them so that on their pay applications, if they say that they're 50% done with their work, we're on site full time. We're evaluating their work to make sure that are they really 50% or are they only 30%? And if they're 30%, we'll reduce their pay application. We do all of that vetting. Then on a monthly basis, we'll submit all the invoices to you with a cover page that simply says to this contractor, write a check for X amount. And whilst we typically also put the UFARS codes in there and everything, so it's very simple for your business office. So, you'll.
No, and that answers my question. That's what I was hoping you were going to say, because that's what I thought I remember us talking about early on. And that's exactly
Yeah.
the way that I think we need to set this, that's where, so in our org chart for us here, we got the owner. So then when you get a payment to come in, you need to send that to the board to be paid, right? To cut the check, or does Nexus have the authority to release those funds now that the referendum is?
No.
That still needs to go to the board,
No.
right? So do we need to?
It goes through your normal bill paying process.
Yeah.
But again, we'll have vetted it out. We'll have vetted all the invoices to make sure that they're appropriate to pay.
Yep.
So then it's just, and our project managers will also give the board periodic updates. No, it's during the summer, it's usually monthly. In the off season, it might be a little less as the construction periods, go up and down. And a lot of work with renovations can be done during the summer months. So, but we will keep you updated, and our project managers submit a regular report with pictures and everything to show you exactly what the status of the work is, obviously along with a budget update as well.
Yeah, the only reason I was saying is we don't need to have another little circle in there, somebody like the thing or the facility committee going through those bills to go to the board, if they can handle it directly. So that's what I was saying. We didn't need to have another little group in there. Obviously, I think that'll be you, but
I don't think you're gonna want, I mean, again, we're 100% transparent.
Yeah.
I don't think that you're gonna want to be going through the invoices,
no,
some of you guys have construction experience, but
No.
you're not gonna, unless you're on site every day, you're not gonna know.
No. I'm just trying to make sure that based upon some of the foolishness that's going on right now, and I think it's past craziness to foolishness. I'm just trying to see if there's, to make sure that we, is there another step that we need? How do we have this? How do we have it transparent? I don't want anybody throwing a wrench in the process because, they're going through. So I'm trying to think through some of the loopholes. So I'm not trying to be difficult.
No, I fully agree. I think one thing is what we understand, the other is perception, right?
Yep.
Yep.
So on Monday, you'll be asking the board to sign the B-144 and the B-101. Is that correct? Those two documents?
Correct. Yes, and then there is also, it doesn't need a signature, but again, just, you'll see in there's also a document, the A-232 general conditions. That is really a document, it's the rules of engagement that we're all playing by. We've been bold, Nexus, and the trade contractors. It largely applies to the trade contractors, but that is how can I say this? When I talk about issuing contracts to the trade contractors, that they have a simple contract which specifies what their scope of work is and their bid. And then that A-232 is attached to it also. So again, so there's the three agreements, B-101, B-144, and A-232. Again, the A-232 doesn't get signed, it's just an attachment that's referenced in the trade contractors documents.
So these first pages, Jackie, that's where you're talking about city contribution, or is that listed somewhere else as well?
Nope, it's just on those first two, and then it's
Okay.
just what are we referring to the school as?
So those we are gonna switch to others.
Can you, regarding the name of the school, will you email us exactly how you want it? And I'll make sure that it gets listed that way.
Yes, I will email you.
Are you saying it's?
Sorry, it was Amy. I'll email you. I can't know.
It's called both schools, it's called ISD, and then Amy said like the official name is also different, so I think it's
What is
just
that?
Independent School District. That's typically what schools are calling themselves when they do documents, but I
So
don't
We're
know
just,
either.
we're going through a bunch of stuff at the federal level because our name has been
So many
Bold
things.
Public Schools or Independent School District 2534. It's been listed as so many different things that it's tough for us to access federal money for things right now. So,
So it needs to get cleaned up.
So we've been working on it for a couple months,
Okay.
well,
longer than that, but yes.
almost 2 years.
So
Consistency
along those,
for this at
as
least.
long as you brought that up, federal money. So there's about $800,000 in addition to the 43 million. There's about $800,000 that for the outside playground work that was potentially coming from ESSER funds. Because and it doesn't have to come from ESSER, it just has to come from somewhere. But because you had indicated that it may very well be ESSER money, we break that. We actually write a separate contract for that work. Okay, like a Nexus, we break it off as its own standalone project. But the documents and everything will be identical to the ones you have in front of you. It's just, it'll be that dollar amount is, I think it's, give me a second, let me look. It's, 816,400. And the reason we break that out is it's to protect you. So it's a little more work on our end, but it's to protect you. If you commingle federal ESSER money, there's all sorts of other requirements. You have to use prevailing wage, you things like that, all sorts of other requirements that will add cost to your project. And they would apply to the entire project if we commingled it. But if we write a standalone contract, we manage it the same way, everything, but it's a standalone contract. Our specifications have got some slightly different requirements that pertain to the contractors. But there will be, so when we, and I've just been waiting to get the language finalized, so I don't have to do it twice. Now that we have that done, we will submit to you, there will be two B101s, two B144s, if that makes sense.
Can I request when listing these funds out? So if we're switching the city contribution to other funds or funds on hand or other funds, maybe not necessarily funds on hand, can't we just combine the bottom line funds on hand, capital reserves, food service, and eliminating the specific fund source?
The lines 2, 3, and 4.
Well, I
and just
think
combine those.
2 and 4, right?
2 and 4. I think you can leave the facilities maintenance bonds proceeds and LTFM piece, because that's all LTFM basically dollars. However we use that, but the other two require us to be creative on our end to finance and
Okay.
come up with that money. So
So combine lines 2 and 4, so the 707, $707,050 and the 866,245, just combine those into other sources.
yes, I think that would be the easiest without specifying.
And then, of course, if the city does come along, then we could break that out and just
Yeah.
put it as a source and change the.
Because we do have the dollar amounts that we know that we've been working with and had given them. So they do know dollars and whatnot. And they had expected us to come. So they knew we were coming. So
I think though, we should get in front of, they should get in front of their council and make it official so you have some idea of how they plan. Like, yes, the full council supports it, and B, when do they plan to make the transfer?
What is their year to year? What do they do for year to year? I mean,
Well,
are they ready?
They would have done their budget already August, September.
Yeah, but we
next
may
year.
not need this full 707 now. but-
No, that's what I'm saying, at least just so they have,
2024's business that or whatever.
or even 2025,
Sure.
or if they have funding sources available to
It
be
might-
part of it.
well, and if we start something now, we might be able to, there'd be
Correct.
enough funds to flippy
Yes.
floppy if we need to.
But I think
well,
at least just
When,
finalizing.
I guess, from an overall schedule standpoint, I know we probably haven't gotten to that point, but when technically would we need part of the 707 to start working on the pool? I mean, that might not be till 2025.
Right,
So if we get it in front, they might be able to do
I just,
so like a resolution of saying, we will support this funding, understanding it'll be 707,000 over the next, 2 to 3 years, the exact amount to be determined later, expected 2025, or they could come up with something like that with not necessarily needing it in their budget for 2024.
I think it'd just be nice to hear the council say yes.
Yeah, no, I'm in perfect agreement, but I'm
But
just
a
saying how we
resolution or
put it
however
together,
they-
yeah.
Mhm. I have
So-
a couple questions when you guys are done, so.
You go ahead. I've got- don't worry.
So, and this maybe has nothing to do with this and me more just thinking like day-to-day stuff. So because you're acting like the construction manager, are you guys on site daily? Like somebody's always here overseeing everything? Okay, that's cool.
Yes.
And then if there's a work order
Yeah.
change or something comes up, what's your process? Like, do you go right to Jim? Do you tackle it internally, then come back? Like, I guess what I'm looking at is what is expectations of Jim's time or his staff's time, or what's that process? So there's no surprises.
Yeah. That's one of the things that, and we haven't gotten to that point yet, but every district is a little bit different in terms of, from a change order standpoint, because there will be some change orders that, there are on any project. And what authority does Jim have versus when it needs to go to, either the facility committee or the board. And we'll want to just talk you through, our construction team has a workshop in week, that's a few months from now, but
Okay.
we typically would walk you through that and kind of the pros and the cons. And the thing to keep in mind is, again, you want to have, obviously, you need to have some controls in place, and we'll share with you what is typically done. But at the same time, you don't want everything necessarily going to the board, because during the summer, there's typically 53 working days during the summer, and we use every single one. And, there'll be people working there 14 hours a day. We can't wait, 2 weeks on some decisions. So we need to kind of keep that in mind of what's realistic. But in terms of it won't be an inordinate amount of the district staff's time, but there are, you don't need to, but we encourage you to attend the construction meetings, which during the summer are held weekly. In the non-summer months, when construction's a little lighter, they might be bi-weekly, possibly monthly if things are quiet. So we want you to attend those. And I think Jim or Ellie, have we done the design kickoff yet? I know internally.
We did last week.
Okay. So they kind of explained to you there of the different points where you'll have the opportunity to weigh in, and when we'll need decisions made and that sort of thing. So I guess what I'm saying is it will take some time. It will not be it won't be a part-time job, but you'll want to have some input, and then we'll also be talking about how frequently do you want updates, either to the facility committee or the board. And again, that typically is variable depending on, typically we update the board at the various phases of design. So kind of design development, construction documents, so it's kind of a 50% and 95% review. And we update you on the budgets at those same times. So does that help?
Yes, thank you.
I have a question on, and hope it goes this way, but if we put out our bids and say there's a little pot of money left, say there's $1 million left or some money's left, what amount are we able to use, since the referendum is kind of specifics what it's used for? Are you able to use extra funds that we could have left and put that in a maintenance account, or what are the legal options there?
Yeah, your ballot question, I don't have it in front of me, but it's very common to do this, so I'm presuming they did. Typically, the ballot question has got specifics in it in terms of the larger projects, but then it also has kind of got a catch-all that pretty much allows you to use it for any surplus funds for anything facilities related. You can't use it to pay teachers or things like that, but you can use it pretty much anything facility related. The restriction you have in terms of putting it into a maintenance fund, there's a spend down requirement that required that the initial term is that the funds have to be spent within 3 years. So and that's 3 years from the time the bonds are issued. So that's, it's probably going to be February is my guess.
Okay.
So you have to spend them down within 3 years. If the project will be done by then, but if for some reason there was need to extend it, we can apply for a 2-year extension on that. But I don't know if that answers your question. The bottom line is you can use it pretty much for any surplus funds can be used for anything facilities related, but they do need to be used within 3 years.
Okay.
So in this particular case, the 39,950 is the only part of this budget that has to be spent in 3 years. So if we do a good job on design and we come up with $1.5 million savings, we could actually bank the LTFM carryover into general funds and use project funds for those projects.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I mean,
Yeah.
that's where it gets back. So
Yeah,
the 39,950 is
observation.
all we have to spend.
Yeah.
Everything we can take out of, we don't have to spend
And
these
the
other
other.
funds in the others. Yeah.
I mean,
Because we still have
Yes.
the key is as a design team is we have to look at, because we still have a considerable amount of money for the or the HVAC system that'll be coming in out of a different tax that we can levy. And we can minimize that number, that'll go over better in the community, in my opinion.
So by us,
Yes.
by us
Yeah.
signing your first documents for the 43,144,000, if it's something under that, that's still acceptable to you guys. So if we only spend 39 million instead of 43 million dollars, Nexus is okay with that they're not going to make their percentage off that extra $4 million, or they would still expect that by the time we, you know what I mean? Because if we try to save this LTFM money,
Yeah, what we do is, we structure, our fees are structured on a stipulated basis, so they're based on this scope of work, you know, there's a scope of work attached to these agreements, I don't know. Did we, Ellie, did you submit I don't think that you submitted the FIM sum, right? I don't believe. Anyways, okay, so the FIM sum, the spreadsheet with your,
So right now I see under 11, we're basically gonna sign a document that says we owe you 5.6 million and change, broken down by wherever we're at in the project. So you've got, 15% when the schematic is done, 25% after we get the development done and bid packages put together. Once we go out for bids, you'll be at 40%. So essentially, by the time we put all the bid packages and stuff, which is all of the pre-engineering work going out, you're already getting paid 80% of the project of that $5 million. And then the last 20% is essentially the construction management portion of your services. That's what I'm reading in the contract here right now.
yeah, you're on page 22, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Just to, again, being clear, couple things. The 5.6 million is a stipulated sum, and I can show you how that's done. It's my, no, it's not. Okay, anyways,
But,
5.6 million is stipulated sum, and I can show you how it's calculated. There is one variable component, and this is industry standard, that the 5.6 million covers everything except site services, because that's variable depending on the construction schedule and the complexity and duration. That is, once we've got that schedule down, then we have it in the budget right now, but that is billed as a reimbursable. So your site services and related expenses is a reimbursable expense. Again, still funded by the construction project, and that's paid on a pay-as-you-go basis during the construction period.
That's over.
And then back to the question on,
That's over.
I'm gonna see if I can share.
That's all included. I mean, that's all included in the 43,144 that we budgeted. All that money's been included in this project. I mean, that won't be
Yes,
that won't be an addition. It'll be an addition to the 5.6, but it will not be an addition to the 43.
That's correct. Correct.
Okay.
And similarly, the 5.6 is within
What?
43.
What's that?
So the 5.6 is what you get no matter what.
Yeah, the 5.6 get no matter what, and if the project runs longer, they'll get more which makes sense. They're on site longer. If we do it quicker, then they don't get paid as much on their services.
so my question is, if the whole project comes in under 10% under, just for a number, do you still get your
Total
Okay.
5.6.
5.6 if we're under that dollar amount? Does that make,
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you saying. It's, okay.
I'm just so we know the answer, it's clear. Yeah.
It's gonna be asked.
If we can bring this thing in 10% below budget, like design and construction teams are gonna be doing backflips.
Well,
There's a lot of cost pressure right
I just mean if we get to the point where we don't have to use those LTFM funds, if we could find that much
Right.
money and not have to use those, does your number, that your reimbursement number change if we're that 1.6 million under?
No, it doesn't, and here's why. You can structure agreements like this in two ways. You can either do it, stipulate some based on the estimate, or you can do it, based on actual cost, okay? So if it costs more, you pay more. If it costs less, you pay less. That sounds like a good deal, but when you really look at it, and people wonder why construction projects are over budget all the time, not counting the period we're in right now. If you pay a consultant on the actual cost, you certainly don't mean this, but what you're saying is the more expensive you make it, the more I'll pay you. And if you find ways to save me money, the reward I'm going to give you is to reduce your compensation. Clearly those are misaligned goals. What we do is say, let's align our goals. Okay, and we put together what our professional opinion are reasonable budgets. We're typically, for what it's worth, we're typically within about 5%. And we guarantee that the project won't come in over budget. If it comes in over budget, we have to redesign it at our expense to bring it back on budget. That's a very costly thing for us to do. So we want to be close, but at the same time, the numbers got to be real. But the idea is let's align our goals and work really hard and find ways to save money and drip the cost out, and that'll hopefully free up enough additional money that either you don't have to use some of these other funding sources, or you can get some other work done that maybe didn't make the initial cut, or maybe we reduce the amount that of the additional LTFM dollars. Some of the, Pat had mentioned it before, some of the additional HVAC work, we maybe don't need to use quite as much of that. So but the whole idea is let's align our goals. And again, if we can find ways to save you money, we're going to do it. And but we I don't want to be penalized as a result of it.
No.
So does that make sense?
Yes, I think a different way to ask the question is how much of this 144 do you have in contingency right now? Is 5% of that contingency?
Yes, of the
Yeah.
39.
Okay,
Yes.
so 5% of that, so roughly, my math is gonna be
1.8
about,
million.
what's that?
1.8 million.
So about $1.8 million is in that contingency fund of 5%. Is there anything in the contract that is there anything in the contract that gives incentive to get that? I know in some of my contracts I did with things is we turn around and we agreed on a contingency number. And then there was a percentage of saying, hey, if we come in under project and you do a good job as a general contractor, we'll split the contingency with you 80-20 or something like that. So that is your horse in the game to make sure we come in under budget that we have. Is there something like that in the language? Is that not allowed in public funds? I guess I'm just curious. I see that as our LTFM budget.
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's not allowed with Minnesota public procurement laws for school districts. 100% of the savings goes back to the school district. So
Okay.
if we have, if we bring the project in and, if the contingency initial budget was 1.8 and we only use 800,000 of it, and again, none of the contingency doesn't go to Nexus. It would go to the contractors, directly from you to contractors, but again, it would be based on our review of any potential change orders. So there's the incentive that we have is to not use your contingency because again, one, we want you to be super happy, and two, we need to be able to get this entire project done. So we only have so much contingency there. We want to make sure that we get it done for you within the existing budget. So, but again, 100% of it, any unused contingency is the property of the school district.
Okay, I think that covers that question.
Yeah, I can't give you a better deal than that.
No, that's good. That's fine.
I think it also looks good for them to be
No,
able to brag
absolutely.
about.
Well, yeah, I mean, it gives them a reference in us. It shows them, hey, look what we did. This is gonna be, I mean, no unintended purpose, this is gonna be a pain in the butt to try to get this done with not interrupting the school year too bad. I mean, it's gonna be difficult, but I think we can get it done, so.
Yeah, and keep in mind, guys, you're 100% right that it gives us a good reference. The school market is small. Minnesota's got, 341 school districts. I mean, that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. And in our business, your reputation is everything. So we work extremely, extremely hard to bring these projects in on time, on budget. And so, yeah.
Net contingency is just up to 39 million. 5% of 39, right?
Yep.
No.
What's that?
No,
No, it's 5% of the whole 43.
How much did you say it was?
it's actually,
1.866 million.
Wouldn't be up to 43 then.
No, it's on the 39,
Oh, it is a
950.
39,
Because
okay.
that's only what we wanted for.
Yes, it's on what we bonded for.
well, yeah, the contingency is, you have two different budgets here, and this is gets into the complexity of just how school construction works. There's what's known as the project budget, and that's what like most lay people would look at the project budget. In this case, the project budget is 43,144,285. That's the project budget. Then, that's all up, all in. So that's all your, what are known as your hard costs and your soft costs. Your soft costs are your design costs, planning, design, commissioning, construction management, stuff like that. Your hard costs are your, basically your trade contractor costs, kind of your bricks and mortar. The hard costs, which includes your trade contractor costs, your contingency, and your construction management services, that's what's known as the construction budget, or the cost of the work. And on this project, that is of the 43 million, about 37,800,000 is the cost of the work. That's what, when we talk about 5% contingency, it's actually based on, called a 5% of 38 million.
That makes sense.
And this will be when the design team and then the construction management team are updating you on budgets, they'll have this all, and I can show you the summary of it. I'm staring at it if I can share my screen. But they'll have a detailed budget that they'll work closely with you on. So, but again, it's always confusing because design professionals and contractors think in terms of the construction budget, but everyone else thinks of, the total budget, which is known as the project budget.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining all of that.
Yeah, well, glad to do it. And we do this all day, every day. So, it's secondhand to us, but if you want more or less detail, just let me know. I'll be glad to share it with you.
So just in conclusion, so when we go to the board, or when we take these documents, the board recommend them, we're basically saying the board is committing to the 5.632 million. And this is the phases that they're going on with the first 10% down payment, I think is required, or whatever comes in. I think that first 15% is required according to the schedule. Correct?
Yeah, what we do is we have, we've been part of the deal, if you will, in terms of our partnership was, we don't win until the district wins. So we have all of the development costs. We've been carrying all of that. So once the agreement is approved, we would bill you all of our costs to date, and typically plus 10%, so that we have a little bit of working capital. And since we've been underwater for 18 months. So that first bill would, so in simple terms, say be about 15% of it's 15% of the 5.6 million.
Correct.
I have a question on that, but we're not releasing the bonds, so what if the district, do we have money to pay that bill? I mean, I don't know how much we're
We won't
talking.
Yeah, assuming that your bonds are sold, and typically they'd be sold in February. Ellie, do you have an update? Is that the
I think
plan?
that's right. Or end of January, early February, yeah.
As of this
We-
morning, I think we were looking January when I talked to them.
So could they pay off their bonds or? I just am curious, does the district have the money to pay your services or do they wait till the bonds are sold?
We would wait. till-
We
Okay,
We would have to wait till the.
just
budget.
checking.
Yeah, we,
would just,
I mean, we want to be good stewards and not pay a bill. Or,
yeah,
okay,
of
Thank
course, we'd love to get paid, but we totally understand it. You can borrow the money from yourselves, but in this case, you're only talking 60 days or whatever. We're just not gonna send you the invoice until, we'll probably send it in December, but you won't pay it until middle of February, that's fine.
okay.
Roughly $845,000.
Yep,
What did you
no
say
problem.
it was?
844,902.
write a check
844,
for that right
902.
now.
Yeah, I'll get
That's
right on
petty
that.
cash, right, Jim,
Yeah,
for
that's
you?
not-
Take that out of your golf chairman
Are we
charge.
getting charged a late fee?
We're gonna waive the late fee, right?
We won't,
I don't want anyone in the district to panic.
we would definitely not
This
charge
one
you
makes
that.
me nervous, so
That's good.
I've been like every.
And then I guess I had one question that kind of came through all this, and I think it's answered in the agreement that you have here based on how you explain it. But who is responsible for making sure and physically doing all the filing of permits, all the construction permits, all the school permit, everything? It says, in the agreement, it says Nexus will advise the owner. Does that mean that Jim has to physically write and submit that, or would that be something Nexus puts together and Jim just has to sign it and send it in? Or I want to make sure, because that can get very complicated, especially with timings and things like that, if we get involved in any EPA type permits.
Yeah. No, great question again. We act as, in essence, we do it, but legally, the district is doing it. That's why it says Nexus will advise you on it.
Okay.
So we act as your agent. We prepare prepare the paperwork, all that sort of stuff. All you need to do is sign it and send it in. So no, there's very little that you would need to do. And it's our responsibility to make sure that everything, proper permits are pulled, all that sort of thing, which again, we're highly incented to do because otherwise it hold up construction. So Nexus does all the legwork, but some things need to be filed directly by the district. We would tell you what to file and fill out the paperwork for you, that type of thing.
Are the construction managers all employees of Nexus? Or do you sublet?
Yes,
They're all employees of Nexus?
all employees in Nexus. And there will, we haven't really gotten to this part yet, but I mean, just so you're aware, we will most likely, I'd say 95% chance, we'll have a job trailer out on site. We'll find a spot that works for everyone. Everything will be proper signage, all that sort of thing. And anyways, but yeah, there will be a team there that during the summer, they'll be full-time. And then again, it depends on the actual construction cycle in the off-season. Most likely there's going to be enough going on that there will still be guys there on a regular basis.
Do you think you'll just have one that'll do both Bird Island and Olivia? Or will you have different people overseeing each side?
There will probably be, I would think we'll probably have 2 to 3 site superintendents out there. And then there's, one project manager who runs the whole show. And then there would be, I'm going to guess there's probably going to be at least 2, maybe 3 site superintendents that are, especially during the high season, that are overseeing the work at all times.
Ellie, can you talk on how the design kickoff went? Did you guys have a
Say that
design?
again?
And a design committee?
You said you had a kickoff.
Yes.
How'd that go? Or what'd you guys do?
So basically, it's made up of like our engineers and our program managers, and then also the administration. So Jim, Amy, Brett, Denny, and so they start there. I'm trying to think who else is. Randy, you're included on there as well.
You haven't had it at the
So they
school yet.
start.
Yeah, we
Then
did one. We're gonna,
then we-
okay, I'll get you on the next one.
Okay.
Jackie.
Sorry.
I can tell Russ if you want to be. Who wants to be on it? I can have Russ include you.
We'll add Pat and Jackie.
Greg, what
Pat and Jack. Okay.
I have 18
Um,
I don't watch too many.
I will add you tomorrow.
want to be on it?
Um,
I would like to be on it too. I mean,
Okay.
but I don't know if you don't want too many. but-
I believe Todd Sheehan's on it as well.
And Jackie said
Anyway,
she wants to be on it too.
They start there and then they break into user groups as it gets more specific in the areas that they're designing.
So generally, how does that work? I mean, if design committee look at it, do they design piece by piece? They work on areas, or is it a whole design? Everyone kind of breaks off into areas, so everything kind of comes together at once. How do they? I mean, I realize the design committee is really an idea group, correct? I mean, is it much more than an idea group or a realistic idea group, or what? What is actually their type of job?
It's the decision makers, right?
Their job is to take all the feedback from every area. So it starts big, you know, they're talking, oh, Margaret's on it as well for food service. I keep thinking of different people. Derek's on it for athletics.
Neil,
What? Who else?
Neil Koffenberg,
And Tammy
yeah,
Steffel
Neil.
for the.
Tammy
Um,
Steffel from the
And they
teachers.
start big and then they, as it gets more specific, you know, they'll start the different areas, they'll take the feedback, they'll work off what feedback they got, they'll show different drawings. And as they're breaking out into more specific of the space, that's when the user groups come in.
Okay. And I'm telling people that if you want to be a part of those user groups, you can be a part of those user groups.
So then they basically, so let's say, so say Tammy, for example, from her teacher, she brings feedback and thoughts that they have, brings them to one of your Nexus design people.
It comes back to the planning committee or the design committee.
Okay.
And they're ultimately the yay sayers basically of what it is. So you guys part of that group, that's basically who decides.
Keep it from getting out of control.
So they
Yeah.
bring us all the ideas and then ultimately this group would decide.
I don't think
It's
I need
planning
to be
committee.
involved in a user group. but
No.
we
You
can
don't
look
want
at the
too many
overall,
teachers and too many, you're just gonna go way off base and you're never gonna get anywhere. You know, so it's kind of, they take the feedback and they come back and then they, with their way, you know, kind of get more detailed as they move on.
So then is it like on a weekly basis that the Nexus people kind of put stuff together and send back out or start doing
I'm
drawings or what?
looking at, it's on my calendar, I'm looking right now.
I think it's
bi-
bi-week.
I think it's every other week.
Bi-weekly. I think the next one's next week, next Thursday, I think.
Next Thursday.
It is.
Yep.
Next Thursday is the next
What was the time? Do you know? Do you remember? Okay.
one. 1:00.
1 o'clock? Okay.
So then are there usually drawings at that bi-weekly meeting then that take that feedback, put drawings together so people look at it and say, is this what you're thinking or how does that actually work?
I mean, eventually it would be that way. Right now, it's so early on, they're not gonna have drawings yet.
Just, okay.
But eventually, yes. And then you kind of change them with each design meeting as you get different ideas and stuff.
Yeah.
And the other thing to keep in mind is, you know, the program managers, which is Russ and Megan on our end, their job, you know, for these design committees, they can get completely out of hand and that's not gonna come in on budget. So their job sometimes isn't always fun, but they have to, you know, keep it within reason so that it hopefully comes within budget of what is out there. So,
Yeah, and I guess that's what I believe that I want to be involved with is more of the value engineering aspect of it,
okay.
where we start,
And that's great,
you know, where we
because
have
I'll be
the
honest,
need
usually that's
versus
our
want.
job. So I mean,
What's that?
I mean, that would be great to have you on that end too.
But it's, you know, I think we need to keep in mind what we said all along, the need versus want. I was reviewing our our budgets, what we're building right now, we initially bid out at 68 million. Technically, on our first design, and we're down 25 million from that. So we've already cut a lot of that out. We can't put it back in.
Right. And keep in mind on our end, I mean, like Mike mentioned before, if we're over budget, we have to redesign it at our cost. So it's in our best interest to design it, you know, with what was said so that we come in within the budget.
Yeah.
What are you seeing out there right now? Are there, I don't see a whole lot of large construction projects going on. Is there more than what I see? Is construction a little slow? Is it a good time to be going out for bids right now?
Yeah, it's the Fed's activities, raising interest rates, along with skyrocketing construction costs that we've seen in the last, it's been about 2 years now, is impacting private sector work. So it has. So what's happened is we've seen costs. They haven't pulled back yet, but they've leveled off in the public market because the public projects are still going forward. So it is a decent time to be going out. But it's still, there's no doubt, it's still challenging cost-wise. Labor is still somewhat tight. There were a lot of projects, a lot of school referenda were approved, back in November. So it's a I wouldn't say it's a great time, but it is a decent time. Put in perspective, we saw construction inflation 2 years ago of 15-20%. There's some indices that say it was over 30%. Year over year now it's about 7%. So, which is still above the historical average for construction inflation is 5%. So it's still up, but it's a much better time now than it would have been 18 months ago.
And I said this to a few of you, like, had your first referendum passed, there's no way in the world you would have built that building for what you had in there.
Not even close. Not even close.
The timing on that would have been terrible.
Blessing and disgrace.
We saw that there were schools that went out for a referendum and were successful in that same time period. I think there were 24 of them actually submitted a bill to the legislature asking for relief funds. And I would say the average overage, they showed their initial budget and where they were currently at, I would say the average was probably 25-30%. Some were 50 to 100% over. Some of that.
Did the legislature get?
No, that didn't go very far.
So, is there, I mean, and this is, it's gonna sound funny, but I'm just gonna say, is there any group lobbying the Minnesota legislature? We got $2.4 billion overrun on taxes. You've got all these schools that are asking for referendum. Is there anybody lobbying the state government to say, hey, how about just sliding some of that 43 million over here? Or, our neighbors to the east, they needed X amount of dollars. Is there a reason, instead of giving it all back, why not give it to approved funding for people that need it right now? I'm just curious, is there anybody that's lobbying for that?
Well, again, there was a bill in this law.
Oh,
I'm sure that's on.
Oh,
there you go.
we lost you a little bit. Can you repeat that?
I'm back. Again, there was a bill that was put forward. There was 24 school districts were lobbying for it. One of them was our client, but we were like 10% over budget, which was tiny for everybody else. But it didn't go anywhere. It's not as though the legislature maybe didn't see the need, but my take on it, based on the feedback I received, was they were concerned about setting precedents and why do these districts get help, and versus others who didn't. Anyway, so I think that was the concern. In terms of just in general, I'm not aware of any particular activity going on right now. I mean, obviously there's you know, Minnesota is in an excellent position financially, but what's gonna come out of that, I'm not sure.
Well, I guess it's just a thought because they're trying to figure out ways to spend the money and I'm just like, you've got, what did I hear? Something, wasn't there like 60 or 80 referendums approved out of the, that's almost 25 or 30% of the schools in the state were asking the taxpayers for more money. I mean, I think that's a pretty high percentage of our population that should be able to get some of the 2.4 million and relieve those taxpayers.
Yeah,
Just a thought.
I
Crazy
don't-
as it is.
I don't disagree.
Call the government.
It's,
I should.
Yeah.
I should
yeah,
call
it's- I mean,
Mr. Walsh and tell him
95%
to come
of
help
school
the
districts,
cows
they
and the
got
rocks.
operating levies.
I used
So,
to deliver papers to his house.
95%.
What's that? I didn't miss that. Was it my,
You gotta listen.
I was talking to Jim.
What'd you say there, Mike?
oh, I said, approximately 95% of school districts have operating levies. You would think that might be some, incentive to increase the state's, the funding formula from the state's end, especially with the plus we have. But there was a commitment, this started back with Governor Pawlenty, 20 years ago. There was a push for local control. And by that, they meant if a community wants to fund their school district with more money, they're welcome to do it. But this, and it's just kind of become this standard operating procedure now.
I don't think
I
there's any
agree
way to get away from local communities funding their own schools, but like you say, 95% of districts are going out and asking for extra money. How much are they asking for? And just make it up.
How much?
Don't make it a fight, because it becomes a fight.
It goes, yeah, and it's, and it's difficult because, they do, with equalization, they try to balance, more affluent communities with less affluent, they try to provide some help that way. But it's still, it's a heavy lift and it seems kind of funny that, you have all these school districts going on asking for money and meanwhile the state's talking about rebating some of the surplus back. It's like, I agree. It's an odd situation, but
So-
if we go in control, control.
How, and Ms. Moore, like the thing, how much money does the state pledge per student for educational support? Because, and the reason what I'm getting at is down in Illinois, the school districts that we were involved with, they got in trouble because the state of Illinois was pledging, we're gonna pay $12,000 a kid, is what they were gonna give the school districts. So the school districts that we were involved with their infinite wisdom in the middle of a recession in 2008, went on and said, we're gonna get $12,000 a kid. Well, here's what our budget looks like if we got so many kids. We can give all these big raises and everything. Well, the state came back and said, we're over budget. We're only gonna give $3,000 a kid. Our school district did that 3 years in a row. And then the state came in and said, well, you guys need to shut down one of your brand new schools because
There's a lot of empty schools.
because you're not going on. So, but anyway, so I'm just saying has the state of Minnesota lived up to what their expectations is, or they changed it over? Like if they say we're going to give you 6,000 a kid, you get
It's always been
6,000
pretty
a kid.
good. I remember it was before I was a principal. Yeah, there was one year where they withheld funding for a long time.
Yeah.
But they paid us some of that. But I can only think of one time, and I wasn't in administration, so I really don't know too much about that. But
But that was
But
3
I can show you the.
No, I'm just saying because that'd be a
Minnesota
way
funding
for the
report.
school to come back and say that's equal for everybody. If you got a school, you turn around and say, okay, well, we're gonna give you $12,000 instead of $8,000. Just give a little bit more per kid.
We get about 13.
Yeah, I was trying to think what our number was when I did
It's
the
over
truth
13.
and taxation last month. Yeah, we're about in the middle, like,
I'll show
we're
you.
not the low, but we're not
Google
the
me
high, but
The spreadsheet they have for calculating
Determining
this.
that.
It'll blow your mind.
it's like, I don't know, the few numbers that I need off there are like page 33 of how many, it's long.
There's something-
It's like dot matrix, everything.
When do you expect your first bids would be letting off for the first bids?
Give me a sec here.
Before you answer that question, well, go ahead and answer that question. I got to follow up with that. So
Right now, the first bids are, based on the preliminary schedule, we'd be soliciting bids in May of 2024. And that would be, the first projects are in Olivia, rebuilding the track, the stadium lights, and the small gym bleachers. And Bird Island would be the main and auxiliary gym floor replacement, the gym bleachers, stage floor refinishing, and new stage curtains and lighting. So that's all projected to be in again, May of 2024. The construction work would be done over the summer of 24. And then the heavy renovation work at both Bird Island and Olivia would be bid in late summer, so in the August timeframe. And construction work is really slated to go year round. We're creating some swing space, and which is going to mean that we'll get better bids. If work is limited to being done during the summer, that's when every school district is doing a lot of work. So prices tend to be a little bit higher, so, and oftentimes you don't have a choice. But in this case, we're going to be able to work, again, I'm just going to schedule here pretty much year round, it will make your project very attractive to contractors.
and that's great. And that was what I wanted to hear, I guess, because of a lot of the noise that we're hearing right now is generating to the east of our district. Any emphasis we can put on to getting on that campus and getting that campus taken care of sooner rather than later, I think will help a lot. And I'm talking about stuff that you can see from the outside, like tearing down the building. Get that, what we like to call show construction going.
That was, and the first bids, is there in May, is that any part of that is tearing down that 3-story part?
I don't believe so.
And I guess that's,
I think we're holding off on, if I'm correct, I think we're holding off on that until one more cycle of what Island Hub does, because then we would tear down more. Is that right, Mike? I'm pretty sure that's right.
I believe that's correct.
But it would be such a big savings to get that out of there so we don't have to heat it another winter.
It's true.
Well, and of course, my concern, having done a fair amount of demo work, is what if there's a little slip up and something happens to, especially the old school portion. I'd hate to re-roof and redo that, and they're tearing down adjacent to it, something happens. That's my 2 cents on that. Because that's a pretty tight area in there, depending on what they're gonna save and not save. Maybe the contractor's gonna end up building us a new gym.
I guess
They did bring
they're
in a
insured.
demo contractor to get those numbers, so, I mean,
Yeah.
they had someone look at it.
yeah.
Right.
But
I
I
mean, it's
guess,
pretty easy to have an accident there and
Yeah.
something happens and
Oh, I agree.
wrecks our new roof or our new floor and then, thought would be, gosh, why did you guys not take that down first? But
yeah, and
you're the professionals.
yeah, and I'm just looking at strictly from the optic side of it, where I think it would help the perception of that something's happening if we actually had some good show construction over in Bird Island right away, where people can
And
physically see what's
honestly,
going on.
we're not against it, it's the Island Hub,
That's,
like that we're waiting on.
where are we at with that? Are we,
They're waiting, they're gonna have
I
to
mean,
wait
that's
till.
up to the
hear-
district, honestly. They were gonna go through one more cycle, I believe.
with the legislation?
Yeah.
They're waiting to hear if they can get.
So the spring,
It's gonna be
right?
May or June with the session ending, May? This is a short
I think it's
session?
May.
May.
So they should know by May.
Okay. Well, I'm that's just fine.
Because
It is what
you
it
bid
is.
that where the contractor would say, this is the bid if we took down the 3-story and left the cafeteria, and the bid if we had to take it all down. And if they know by May,
I suppose,
And
though,
we can go forward.
they may request a certain dollar amount and they may get half of that. It doesn't mean they get what they want, so I suppose that could change that too. But
I just want to be there another year.
I fully agree.
Heat it, clean it, everything
That's a
else.
huge savings right there.
Yeah,
in Heating.
that would save us a lot.
I would
Yeah,
agree.
and I don't think, if I remember right, there's no way to take away
The fire marshal will let it.
the fire, right, there's no way to separate that, right?
Correct.
I thought there was, it's just that the fire marshal wasn't allowing it because.
Oh, is that it?
I
Maybe
thought
that's
that's what I was.
Because the fire suppression
Change it.
system would freeze or whatever.
Yeah. I got involved in that, yeah. You'd have to switch. It doesn't, it costs like, what, 38,000 or 40,000 a year or something to heat that old section that we're heating. That was the only. But if the Island Hub, I mean, I want to do whatever we can do to help that group. So I fully agree. That's wait a session and see what happens.
All right. Does anybody have anything else?
No,
Good at this point. Appreciate it.
Mike and I will both be there on Monday, so.
I don't see,
Yeah, so what we'll do, now that we've got the sign off from your legal counsel, we'll make these changes that we talked about here, which is, again, just be consistent, getting the official name of the district done properly, and we'll do the combining of the funds that we talked about on the first page. We'll then prepare final documents for you. Jim will email those to you, that they'll be in PDF form. And keeping in mind again that there's going to be 2 B101s and 2 B144s. Again, the difference being is the ESSER work will have its own standalone agreement. But we'll email those to you. Does your board packet go out on Friday or Thursday or?
I was hoping to put it out tomorrow.
All right, I can probably have these to you. I'm booked till about mid-afternoon, but I can probably have them to you by the end of the day tomorrow. Hopefully that's okay.
Okay.
And yeah, and then the board in terms of decision, the board is just a simple motion to approve the agreements and authorize the, typically we have them signed by the board chair and the board clerk.
We can send those to Jim.
So,
yeah, I'll do that. Hey, do you happen to know, did a local a civil engineer, were they able to get a bid in yet, you know? Or that's probably for a question more.
Oh, they were gonna reach out, yeah, for the survey.
I know that
Yeah.
I knew they
They
did
were-
that. I know they reached out and I saw some emails back and forth, but
I think they're holding up, I mean, it holds it up a little bit. I think if he could get one in quick, I don't know what happened to it. I talked to Russ about it yesterday.
Okay. Is that something simple enough to, if it's a good bid, to just switch, put it in at the last minute? Or not?
What's this for?
For the civil engineer. It's, right now it's listed.
I think that's something you can sign, Jim. Am I wrong on that, Mike? It's something small.
Is this for like the site survey work? or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
$13,000.
Yeah, it'll be direct to the school district. Again, it's managed by us. We can manage the overall budget. But if they're qualified, and if they're local, you know, even if they aren't the absolute cheapest, if they're local, you know, it isn't gonna be that big of a contract or what. It probably makes sense to keep the work local. So
We
as
wouldn't
long
wanna
as
say
they're
that
qualified to do it.
publicly.
it should be fine.
But just so there's not an issue, we're getting more than one bid on that.
Yeah, we got two, and right now, that's
Oh, yeah.
the
All
Bolton and Mink that you saw in there.
yeah, that's one of them. So we just need to
All
make
right.
sure that we get that bid package to the local person too.
Right.
I think
Ellie?
they already had 2, if not 3, and that would be a 3rd or 4th. So they definitely have multiple bids.
Perfect.
Ellie, I emailed you the legal name because I didn't have Mike's email in
I
my
just
stuff.
forwarded it tonight.
Perfect, thank
Yeah,
you.
We're good.
What
Yeah.
is the legal name we're going with?
It is Bird Island, Olivia, Lake Lillian, Independent School District 2534. With no
Hereafter known
dashes
as
and no
the school
periods and nothing.
There's
And no
abbreviation.
space?
No- There is space
Space,
between
but-
each one, but yes,
There's no abbreviation.
no.
That just
That's
rolls
how
right
it's
off your
listed on our
tongue, doesn't it?
taxes.
sure
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rhode Island, Olivia, Lake Lillian,
Independent
Independent School District
District 2534.
Let's just go for it.
We do have a DBA, but
as Bold School.
yes, bold schools, yes, but
All right,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very
Thanks.
much. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
all right, end the stream. We good?
Yeah, does anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss other than?
Well, do we need to just, I mean, I think we're all in agreement that we can forward these agreements on.
Mm.
We're okay with the structure and everything.
I think so. I mean, I want to spend a little time since I haven't even read it. I didn't even page through it here at all, so I want to look, but I don't know why there would be an issue. I mean, but
Well, like I said, they answered the major questions I had is how they were gonna work with us covering loopholes and the fact that they will be acting as our construction agent.
Yep.
Then that gives me a little bit more comfort in the fact that they're working on our behalf. And that was my concern.
And I believe
And I
that
like the idea of a set.
I think they even told us that when we interviewed them.
Yeah.
they did. Everything kind of came back when they talked.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah.
quite some time, so yeah. I just need to read it. And, maybe we just have a little email of anyone, are you able to come to the meeting on Monday? Are you guys able to come to the meeting on Monday?
Monday
School board
night.
meeting?
Okay, awesome.
That
Should
that'd
be
be-
able to
I
make
think
it, yeah.
that'd be great, then if someone could do that recommendation. I mean, just the board, just stand up and say, we reviewed it, and,
It's good to go.
yeah, recommendation.
that?
No, I'm not sure if I
Chair.
can, but if one of you guys could, well, we can talk about it. I'm not sure I'll be here on Monday. I can if I'm here, but I'm not sure. I'll be available. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Come back.